Hello there, it's yet another afternoon. You are watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. This afternoon, a mixed reaction is greeting the National Democratic Congress's decision to appoint Dr. Kayzel Atoforsen as the new minority leader in Parliament. We'll hear from leadership of the party as well as get reactions from parliamentarians who appear to be in the dark about this latest decision of the leadership of the NDC.
The change has nothing to do with the performance of the leaders at all. What it has a lot to do about is that the environment is changing.
Johnson Asiedu Nketia is my guest here on The Pulse on that subject matter. We're also looking at the Labour Front. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is serving notice it will crack the whip on institutional heads who fail to eliminate ghost names from their payrolls as it begins sanitization of the public sector workers' payroll. We'll get you the details shortly.
The 30% is a welcome news for all public sector workers, and the feedback that we're getting is positive. Of course, it's government's responsibility to cushion the worker.
I'm Blessed Sogah. Don't forget as well that The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignity Lu Affordable Safe Sanitation. Stay with us for details. We'll be back shortly. Well, this afternoon, you may call it a palace coup, but JoyNews has obtained exclusive details on the reasons behind the change in the leadership of the minority group in Parliament. Kayzel Atoforsen taking over from Haruna Idrisu as the new minority leader. The details contained in a letter signed by the General Secretary, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has been giving us a sense of what transpired before the NDC is now making its changes. Let's get you some details from that letter as we have it on the screens right now. It's a letter under the, of course, signatory of the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiavikwete. It's quite a brief one indicating that the national leadership of the National Democratic Congress wishes to formally bring to your notice following the changes the party has undertaken in its parliamentary leadership. So in terms of the new minority leadership, the minority leader will now be Dr. Kayzel Atoforsen, who's taking over from Haruna Idrisu as the new leader of the minority side in Parliament. The deputy minority leader will now be Honorable Kofi Ama-Boa, who's replacing James Kluche Aveji as the deputy minority leader. But in terms of the chief whips, the unique situation here, Ahmed Ibrahim is being retained as the first deputy whip. Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak is being kicked out from that post. He's been replaced by an MP from the Volta region called Kwame Governs Agboja. He will now serve as the minority whip in Parliament. The second deputy whip position is being retained. It's still going to the woman involved here, Comfort Doyo Ganza, who will still be at post. So the NDC is indicating to the Speaker that the new leadership would be charged to, would actually be changed. It's not really clear there. I guess the word is changed to recommend some consequential changes in the ranking membership of the headquarters of the party for approval. It's not too clear looking at what we have on the screens right now. But of course, that letter has been signed by Fifi Fiavikwete, who happens to be the General Secretary of the NDC. So you have the clear picture there now of what the new leadership of the NDC is looking like. The picture of the minority leader, Dr. Kayzel Atoforsen, who is now going to serve as the new leader of the minority side in Parliament. There's also the deputy minority leader, Honorable Kofi Ama-Boa, there on your screens together with the leadership of the NDC. Well, what you have now is, of course, a lot of reactions coming through from some MPs and some posts on Facebook, persons reacting to this latest announcement. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, one of the MPs in Parliament, indicates that someone should tell me, some of the national executives, that they cannot choose our parliamentary leadership without consulting the caucus. It's part of the reasons for which Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed has gone onto Facebook to comment about this. We do know that some other MPs have been reacting to this news. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante is traveling with some of these MPs, joins us via Zoom right now. Kweku, I want to bring you on board because I'm sure that first when the decision was made public, a lot of these MPs did not know about it. Any idea what might have prompted these changes as you're hearing from the grapevines?
So some of these MPs learned about the decision from me. We had just completed one tour of the Agenda 111 hospitals here in the Ashanti region. We're just about to get into a convoy to move to other sites that we have envisaged to visit. That information got to me. So I quickly went to some of the NDC MPs that I was with to tell them that this is the leadership changes that your party has made, and they were surprised. You could see the shock drawn on their face. The understanding is that some of them saw this coming, but they didn't know it was going to take this effect. The reasons that we are picking, the sources, what they are telling us, is that there has been some deep mistrust of Haruna Idrisu's leadership over some time now. Of course, those persons who have alluded to this mistrust have not provided any evidence to back any claim that Honorable Haruna Idrisu is in bed with the NPP or is doing business with the majority caucus. You will recall that in 2021, the party's communications officer, Sami Jemfi, made a long post on Facebook, particularly singling out Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka Mubarak, as well as the Speaker of Parliament, for criticism, accusing them of disregarding the party's directive on some of the appointments that President Akufo-Addo had made, which the appointment committee had approved. And so from then, there had been some mistrust, even from within Parliament and without it. Leadership, like someone like Sami Jemfi and all others, who think that Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka Mubarak cannot be trusted because they do not do the bidding of the party, they do not conform to the directives of the party. There is that angle. And recently, you know about the VAT that was passed. Even some NDC MPs on the backbench thought that their party leadership could put up a more spirited defense to reject the 2.5% VAT increase. It ended up passing through. So coming over the last few years, particularly the last 2 years of Haruna Idrisu's first term as minority leader, was rocked with these controversies about whether or not he can be trusted or not. Even a former MP, Ras Mubarak, had gone on to Facebook and made similar allegations against the leadership in Parliament. So that is the first leg, the argument about mistrust of the leadership. The second one has to do with the parties thinking that going into 2024 election is going to be about finance. And who better to lead your front in Parliament than Dr. Keselato Fortin, who is currently the ranking member on the finance
So now let's talk about the MPs and the reactions you've been getting. What have they been telling you?
So the reaction has been mixed. There's the first reaction from people like Honorable Murtala Mohammed, who say that this is a no-no. We do not want the party leadership to be taking this decision for us. We want to take decisions on our own. The party leadership cannot sit at the braca and decide to do this without consulting us. That is the first angle. There are those who are also saying that, well, even if you're going to make those changes, why not allow those of us in Parliament to make the decision ourselves and vote and decide whether or not one case Lato Forsen want to retain Haruna Idrisu or to make some kind of challenge. So it is divided in the middle, with some saying that this is merited, that we cannot trust the leadership of Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka and co, and so we need to change them. And there are those who say that, well, even if you wanted to change them, then we, those in the caucus, have to be the ones making that change.
Okay. Grateful, Kweku Asante there. Let's go to Haruna Idrisu's constituency in Tamale, obviously where a lot of sentiments are being shared on this latest decision by the NDC to make some changes in Parliament with regard to their minority leadership. Martina Bugri is there for us. Martina, I'm just wondering what the feeling is like now in his constituency. Martina, if you can hear me, I'm just wondering what the reactions have been.
Now, the people of Tamale South who are supporting the NDC and Mr. Haruna Idrisu are upset about the decision by the party to replace him. Most of them said they heard the news this afternoon around 12. Some said they saw it through social media, but they were waiting to see what their leaders would say. And just after prayers, the Tamale South Party chairman came to the party office, and then the youth began trooping in. The numbers began swelling. Now they are upset because they think that Mr. Haruna Iddrisu's influence in the party is beyond just Tamale South. They think that he goes beyond Tamale South. He influences Tamale at its whole and even up to the national level. And so they believe that this decision is going to create division in the party, and that can affect their chances in the 2024 election. They said they will not accept this decision, and they expect the leadership to take a second look at it, or they will face their wrath. Now they are threatening the party chairman and the general secretary not to step foot into their constituency again if this decision stands.
Is there likely to be a press conference in the next few minutes on that? Martina, if you can hear me, I'm asking if there will be a press briefing by the chairperson of the constituency any moment from now.
Yes, the party chairman spoke to me a while ago, and he says that those are some of the things I have cataloged. He says that they will not agree as a party for Mr. Iddrisu to be taken off just like that. It says that this is the first time it's happening in the party. Others have served their terms, and why is he not allowed to serve the term? And they pin it to the party secretary and the chairman as being the architect of this. And they think that it is paying back Haruna. But they say that this is going to affect the party and the fortunes of the party in the region.
Martina Bugri monitoring events for us in the constituency of the minority leader. But the big picture, what's likely to be the implication for the NDC going into the 2024 elections? A crucial one, of course, we'll get you all the analysis of the reshuffle. But first, there's a need for us to hear from the chairperson of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. Well, the chairman of the party is this afternoon explaining to me in an exclusive interview why that decision has been taken. We have seen some reports on mainstream media and on social media giving us an indication that the National Democratic Congress, as a political party, has reaching to the Speaker of Parliament to make some changes in your leadership in terms of Parliament. What is the true story from the perspective of the leadership of the NDC?
Thank you very much. It is true. We've issued a letter from headquarters signed by the General Secretary, the new General Secretary, Honorable Fifi Fiavi Kote, communicating formally to Mr. Speaker changes that we have made in our front line in Parliament. That is indeed true. And the new changes will bring on board Dr. Kesela Tuforsen as the new minority leader, Honorable Ama Kufibwa as the new deputy minority leader, and Honorable Governance Kwame Agboja as the new chief whip. And then we maintain Honorable Doyo Ganza and Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. So this make up the new list of leadership in Parliament.
There's the obvious question as to why the NDC is taking the decision now.
Well, there are two questions. Why we are taking the decision and why now? And I guess the answer is the same. We started reorganization of our structures to be able to position ourselves to fight election 2024. We started that more than a year ago. We started at the branch level. We've since done elections in about 40,000 branches. And then from there, we proceeded to constituency level. We've done largely with all the constituencies, and then we've done regional elections, and we just completed the national elections. So the next in line is to take a look at our leadership in Parliament, and that is what we've just done. So in terms of timing, it is in line with the way we are prosecuting the national reorganization. And in terms of why, it means what it tells you is that the only constant thing in nature is change. And so since the environment is changing, leadership and many other things must change along the new environment. We know, for instance, that going into election 2024, the economy is going to be the major battleground. And so many of the debates and other discussions will focus on the economy. So we better put your best man in the economy forward. And that is what we've done. And then we also looked at energy, you know, this petroleum and electricity challenges. And so we needed to settle on Kofi Amabua, our former minister, to be the deputy minority leader. And then the other area is infrastructure, and Kwame Ogboja being our man in infrastructure should play a key role. So that generally is what informed the changes. But there are other things that are coincidental. You take the leadership of Parliament, we are bound to organize ourselves in such a way that by and large, we provide for regional balance and other balances in our ways of doing things. And so since it is very difficult to get representation of 16 regions in 5 appointments, you need to do a lot of mathematics. And our view is that the balance cannot be secured with only one segment of the party. So the elections have turned out certain leaders. We already have other leaders that are already existing. And then also, if we are doing appointments, we take all these as a whole to try and see how we can get a fair balance. When you look at Western region, it's one region that has not been represented on the front bench for a long while. I remember when we were in 92 thereabout, 93 thereabout, that we put somebody on the front bench for a while, and that ended it. So it's a significant region that we need to look at. So when we got the combination of Kofi Amabua from Western region, and he being also very conversant with the energy sector, we thought that it was a good choice, so we put him there. Central region is the same. As for Central region, I think we have, there too, for a long while, we haven't gotten a leader there. From that time, since the time of, I think, Amabenyuado also, we have since not gotten anybody from there. And so we felt there was a need to do this type of spread. And then when you look at the 2 regions that give us the highest number of MPs, Greater Accra and Volta region, they definitely have to be represented. So you have Doyo retained, and then you have Kwame Ogboja also being appointed. One will ask why, because we have Dr. Aveji as a deputy minority leader then. Dr. Aveji has just informed us that he's not contesting elections again. But the good thing about this leadership is that it adds something to your weight, so that apart from your own constituency, you can also reach out to help other constituencies. And so if you have an MP who is no longer contesting. We felt that it would be better to put an MP who will be contesting so he can reach out to other constituencies and support. And so, but a point that we need to make is that the change has nothing to do with the performance of the leaders at all. What it has a lot to do about is that the environment is changing. And so if you are a football coach and the team you are facing and the game style they are adopting is not in keeping with the players you have put out there, you will do yourself a lot of good.
I was just about going to that point because the description in the media is that there is a revolt in the NDC, a reason for which you're changing the first two men at the forefront in Parliament. Have you spoken to these gentlemen involved, and do you have their blessings?
Yes, we sent a senior person in the party to engage them and let them know that this is the way we are going to handle it. Naturally, it will not be a pleasant news, but at least you need to give them the respect. So we communicated to them before writing the letters to them. And apart from the letter we have written to Mr. Speaker, each of them has been written a special letter acknowledging their contributions whilst they were in the leadership, and then thanking them and assuring them that the change has nothing to do with their competence or otherwise, but it has everything to do with the changing times and the changing field. And so that's about it.
General, you are one of the longest serving party officers of the NDC. Some say we've never seen this in the history of the NDC, and that it is not strategic for you to take this decision with less than 2 years to the next general elections. What would you say to someone who would term this decision or this new appointment as not being strategic enough for the NDC?
I don't know what is not strategic about this. You say you haven't seen it in NDC. You haven't seen 2022 in NDC or 2023 in NDC before. This is the only 2023 that you are seeing. And so it comes with its challenges. I have indicated to you the chronicle of reorganization events from branch to this level. And this is the best time to proceed. And so that is what we have done. But opinions are like panties. Anybody has theirs. So I guess people are free to hold their opinions.
So let's explore one of such opinions, comparing Haruna Idrisu and your new minority leader, Dr. Kisalato Forson. Many believe that in terms of the weight, the charisma and the following they have, you would want to choose Haruna over Kisalato Forson, for instance?
I have indicated to you why we are choosing Kisalato Forson, and I don't think that there's the need to rehash. And there shouldn't be any reason to compare them. We are comparing them on what basis? One is a finance expert, the other is a consummate lawyer. So are you going to compare them in the legal field or finance field or what? They are different people, so they cannot be compared.
How about Muntaka? He's someone who's credited for giving you a good chance in Parliament to control the House. You recall what happened? You were there yourself in the chamber when he captured that sacred ballot for the NDC. Many say you're not rewarding him enough by this very decision to take him off.
That was the need for that term. And he, as a leader, proved equal to the task. There are different sets of needs now, and different sets of talent must come on board. So that's all.
Let's look forward to 2024. The NDC wants to recapture power. The NPP says they are breaking the 8. Given this new set of changes that you're doing and a number of reorganization processes that may come up in the coming days, are you certain that the NDC is on course for victory?
That is why I indicated to you the reason for these changes. We are saying that the debate is going to be on the economy. And so we put our best economic foot forward. And so it tells you that we are doing this thing with an eye on victory in 2024. So everything we are doing is towards 2024. If the nation is worried about the economic circumstances, they will take a decision to change if somebody is able to offer them hope in a better government that will produce a better economy. And so you will be remiss if you don't demonstrate to the electorate what alternative you have by way of the urgent need to fix the economy. And so you can only do that when you put your best economists forward. And to tell you what, releasing Ato Forson from the ranking membership of finance will also unearth, Honorable Adongo. So you have two key fighters in parliament. One is fighting as a leader, the other is fighting as a ranking person. And I think that when their powers combine, it's only Captain Planet who can challenge them.
And I recall that when you were elected yourself, some were comparing you to the other side, which is the NPP side. That would equally be done for your new leadership in Parliament. Looking at your good friend, Osei Chairman Sabunso and Alex Apanyumakin leading the NPP side, are you certain that your new leadership can do justice?
Well, I'm not going to assess the performance of my opponents. I want to believe that our set of leadership will be able to match them very well and even overtake them. And so that is our belief, and that is why we've made the change.
General, I'll take your word to the grassroots of the party, but even before I do that, some of the MPs we've spoken to say they've not been, quote, consulted before the announcement. Are you communicating that to them officially so that they respect the new set of names that you have put across? And what will be the next steps in Parliament as you expect it to be?
That will be done when they come back. We'll be meeting them. You know, there is the type of consultation that happens immediately after winning elections when nobody is in position and you are setting up. That one, the nature of consultation is different. When you have people in positions and you are considering their removal, the nature of consultation is also different. And so the nature of consultation in a reshuffle or pending a reshuffle is different from the type of consultation you have when there is no minister at all and you are going to consider candidates for ministerial appointments. So we'll be meeting them.
Your final word to grassroots of the NDC who are seeing these new changes coming, what would that represent?
My word to them is that, as I indicated in my maiden address, that we are going to engage in total deployment of the human resource of the party so that everybody will have something to do getting into 2024 elections. Look at your talent and put you where you will be most impactful in the campaign. So even those who are being taken off parliamentary leadership, they will surely find very important roles where their sets of talents will come to play so that together we can move the party to victory 2024.
So that's the position of the NDC as to why this new change is taking place. I want to bring in now Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa, Sami Obeng. Sami, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Also, Cletus Avoka was one time a leading figure in Parliament, one time served in the leadership of the NDC in Parliament. And so let's start off with you, Mr. Avoka. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. I'm just wondering how this news is coming to you, knowing that there'll be a new set of leadership for the minority in Parliament, just when you are less than 2 years away from general elections.
Part of this program. It was barely an hour or 2 hours ago that my attention was drawn to this news publication on social media that the leadership of Parliament of the NDC had been changed. I received the news with big surprise and then dismay, because it was not anticipated, it was not expected, and it is untimely as at now. Without prejudice, the gentlemen who are now in the helm of affairs, or supposed to be in the helm of affairs, that is Atohesul and then Faisal and then Abuja and then Manuel Bua, are gentlemen, are very decent members of parliament. Without prejudice to that, I think that I don't know what informed the national executive of the NDC to do this, without an iota of consultation with some of us who are seniors in parliament and in the party. And then I don't think that there has been any activity in parliament. We have been on recess for Christmas and then the New Year, and I don't know what has motivated them or what has brought about this type of change.
Well, I was just speaking to the national chairperson. I was just speaking to the national chairperson of the NDC a couple of minutes ago. He says that times are changing. At one time, you were in the leadership for the NDC. It's no longer the case. The tables have turned now, right?
Yes, I was a majority leader, yes, some time ago. That was 2010 to 2013. I was the leader. But I had come to the end of my term of office. I was leader up to the December 2012 election. And then after the elections, then we had to form a new cabinet, new ministers, and then new leadership in parliament and the rest of them. So that was a termination period that one could understand. But this one, that we are preparing ourselves for NDC, we will be having primaries in May, 13th of May this year, 5 months or 4 months away. We were having primaries. Those that are moving today might be having to contest primaries in their constituencies. And then I don't know what message we are sending to those constituencies about them. We are going to jeopardize them. And I think that Haruna has been very affable as a leader of the minority in parliament. He's very smart, he's quick in thinking, he's quick on his feet and his brain, and he's very humble, accessible to everybody. Muntaka has been very combative and then has fought for the party and then the caucus all these years. And I thought that the change of leadership, without prejudice to the new people who are coming in, is untimely and it's unfortunate.
What's likely to be the impact on your political party?
Because at the moment, our focus should have been a hard point on the MPP who are in government, a collective effort against the MPP for the next 2 years so that we can have the elections. Now, they are going to bring about low morale in parliament. The new people are going to start to learn how to provide leadership, both for their caucus members and for the outside world. And that will take another time, and that will be a slow process. And that will retard the progress of the NDC in their quest to wrest power from the MPP in December 2024. This is most ill-timed, and it's unstrategic. And then it didn't need to come at this time at all. We just needed the effort of everybody. We needed to motivate everybody to be able to fight for December 2020 election. And then after that, you can make the change. Change is inevitable. You can't be there forever. But timing is important. And I think that the current timing by the National Executive is misplaced. It's not the best.
At least you'd have that opportunity to lay your concerns before leadership of the NDC. The indication we're getting is that there'll be a meeting to address some of these issues. What would you recommend that the new group do, or some of the leading influential figures within the party do?
I would recommend that the National Executive withdraw the letter of change of leadership, and then I'll urge those new leaders to also step down honorably and say that, look, having regard to the interest of the caucus and the party and the country at large, we think that this is not the appropriate time. We appreciate your confidence in us, but we hope that if the old people continue, we can take over in the near future. I think that both from the National Executive, they should take a humble pie and withdraw the change. And then those they have appointed now, we should also say that out of magnanimity, we think that the time is not the best. And then therefore we close those ranks and continue to forge ahead for December 2024 election. They are correct. They are fine people. I know them. They've been in party for some time, but the timing is still time. And those they are replacing, I don't know the justification for that. I just don't know the justification. And they didn't take many other factors into consideration.
That notwithstanding, are you willing to work with this new crop of leadership?
Oh, we have to meet and discuss before. I mean, it's unfortunate. Yes, they are genuine members of the party. They are honorable members of the party, and I respect them as such. But I'm saying that this is not the time for change of leadership. This is not the time for change of leadership.
Are you willing to work with this new crop of leadership?
I don't want to be pushed to the wall to say I'm willing or not. I'm a party member and I'm bound by party principles and party rules. But I'm saying that in the best interest of the party, and then have regard to the election we are going to have, this is not the time for change of leadership.
All right, then. We'll see how that will pan out. Cletus Evoka, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse, one time a leader in Parliament. Let's bring in Sami Obing, Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, so here we are. We're looking at the next steps. We've not seen this in a long time, so there are a lot of people who are not aware of what the procedure will be. We have leading members of the NDC writing to the Speaker of Parliament asking for some change in the minority leadership. Educate us on the processes that will follow thereafter.
Well, Blessed, you have just spoken to a former leader of the NDC group in Parliament. He has expressed a lot of interesting sentiments. You have aired some views of sitting members of Parliament on the decision that had been taken. The NDC currently is led by a chairman who has been a member of Parliament before, had served in Parliament, a general secretary as head of administration of the party, who has also served as member of Parliament before. And so chairman particularly serves also on the Parliamentary Service Board.
That's right.
Another interesting angle which to be brought on board. All these put together shows that, these are not novices when it comes to how Parliament works, parliamentary practices and procedures, and how sometimes, general strategy can play a very major role in whether you are successful in parliamentary work or not. Having said that, I am particularly surprised to have heard this in the news as a letter written to the Speaker of Parliament. Of course, Parliament is on recess. We expect them to be back sometime in the early days of the month of February. And without members of the caucus knowing about it, it is all over in the media. Senior members of the caucus are not aware. I honestly would want to pay attention to what Parliament, when it sits in plenary, would want to say about this and the process that they would want to take it through. But I think that this could have been done differently, even if there was the need for the change.
So you feel there may be a unique situation here. I'm asking about the next processes because I wanted to know if indeed the caucus has any power at all to reverse what's been done by leadership of the party. Do they have, some of these powers?
Well, you see, we have run our parliament in such a way that party has a very major influence on what happens in parliament. And because of that, you can see some of these things happening with party leadership thinking that, well, we can put this out because it is just, and you see the chairman use the word reshuffle. And during reshuffle times, the process is different from when there is no leadership, yali, yali, yali. Forgetting about the fact that this is going to be leadership who will be leading a caucus of 136, members, as we currently have, it, which means that buy-in becomes very, very critical. All I'm saying is that whereas it may not necessarily be flouting any laid down rule of not having this being proposed directly by the caucus, it has grave implications on the party in parliament if not handled properly.
Yeah, but what then is the big deal? Of course, Haruna himself should have expected that at some point he would be leaving that post It's not as though he's going to be minority leader forever, is it?
Well, the NDC party knows their plans for, amassing as many seats as possible from the 2024 elections. They know the unique nature of this current parliament and the huge expectation on their shoulders that Ghanaians have placed, because we expect that the minority in parliament will be able to play the oversight. They know the weight of the majority leadership in parliament that they will have to come face up with. And so as a party, they are at liberty to be able to play in whichever strategy that they want to play. However, all of this must be subject to whether it will help them deliver the mandates that they have to play as minority. Let me give you a typical example. Of a party caucus in parliament has the a chief whip of a party caucus in parliament has the responsibility of mobilizing.
Sami, are you there?
To control the.
We lost you. We lost you briefly on the point you're making. If you just take that again for us.
So I was saying that a chief whip in parliament, has the responsibility of mobilizing his or her ranks. One that can be able to galvanize the team, one that can be able to whip them in line, one that can be able to lead them. In fact, in parliament, they jokingly refer to their whips as MP class prefects, which shows the weight of responsibility lying on the whip. I heard the party chairman say that, they needed somebody who has gravitas in infrastructure, because infrastructure becomes an issue of huge debate, for the next elections. What has infrastructure debates gotten to do with whipping up your party ranks and files in parliament to be able to do the bidding that you want? And so some of these things, comes to speak to the rationale and the reasoning behind these changes. And like I said, for me, the biggest issue is to hear many members of the caucus say, we did not know about this, we have not been consulted, yet these 5 leaders, of course, 3 new ones, 2 existing ones, are expected to work with these caucus members to deliver on the mandate in parliament. How do you mobilize, lead, galvanize, bring along a group of people who may perhaps not believe in you, who do not have a buy-in in your selection to be able to administer? And remember that the NPP majority in parliament is indeed, especially their front bench, is really a formidable force, in a majority leader who has so much experience, and so all of these things come to play. And for me, I just hope that the party will be able to, I just hope that the party will have exercised some level of maybe restraint or perhaps consultation before these decisions were taken. I really doubt what the rush was, especially considering that the House is not coming back until about 2 weeks from now.
Okay, then. Sami Obeng, just hold on for us. This conversation is a long one. It's just starting. I also want to bring in Inusa Fuseni, who was there in Parliament, worked closely with Haruna Idrisu, and now is learning of this new decision. Thank you, Honourable, for your time here on The Pulse. I'm sure that you're not too elated by this decision of the leadership of the party, are you?
Well, I would say that, I was a bit surprised by the decision of the leadership of the party. But clearly, it's a decision of the party, and so I respect that decision.
What's the likely implication? And I was just asking Cletus Avoka a while ago about the implication. He says that it's dire. You're going into a major election. You should be focusing on your common quote-unquote enemy, which is the NPP, going forward into the 2024 elections. And now you'd have to deal with the internal rancor. Do you see that playing out in Parliament as well?
If Cletus Avoka said that, then I beg to differ. In fact, and also to differ with Sami. Sami has been working with Parliament for some time now. And he would not be able to tell me at any point that the minority members of leadership of Parliament or the majority leadership of Parliament were selected by the members of Parliament, or in the selection process, those members consulted.
That's a critical point you're raising, because in the debate now, there's the question as to consultation, why they've not been consulted, at least why the national executives did not reach out to a few of them?
I've been in Parliament long enough to say on authority that when we won election, I went to Parliament in 2006. So I met the current speaker during his second term as the minority leader. I was there when we won election 2009, and tell me at the front bench which members of Parliament were consulted before the front bench of the majority was chosen, or which members of Parliament were consulted before the front bench of the minority, then the MPP, were chosen. I was in Parliament when we lost election 2016 and formed the minority in 2017. And Sami Obin, no minority member of Parliament was consulted when Haruna Idrisu's team was made were chosen as leadership of the minority in Parliament. Now, I have also looked at the NDC constitution, and I don't see any provision that requires that the leadership of the party in choosing leadership of the party in Parliament has to consult the members of Parliament. I have also looked at the standing orders. The standing orders do not say that the members of Parliament on either side of the House has to choose their leaders. The standing orders does not say that.
Okay, yes, so let's get clarity on that. What's the provision of the standing orders then?
So, well, the standing order says that the leader of the largest group in Parliament, other than the group or party that forms government, is the minority leader. That's what the standing order says. The leader of the largest group or party in Parliament, other than the party that forms government, is the minority leader. So that leader could be chosen by the party.
So then, what then happens? We're seeing a letter from the leadership of the NDC. Should the speaker regard that letter? Because the argument is we've not seen this before.
Yes, the speaker does not choose the leadership of either party in Parliament. The speaker has absolutely nothing to do with the selection process of the leadership of Parliament. What the speaker does is to recognize that leadership.
So then to the big question, how prudent is this decision for the NDC? You're a member of the party, you're equally concerned.
I believe what the party has done is to strategically reposition the party in Parliament for election 2024. They are moving the chips to ensure that the party plays its critical role, because the battleground for election 2024, which is about 23 months away, will be fought in Parliament. And they are moving the chips to get the leadership that, in his view, can work to meet the legitimate interests, aspirations, and expectations of the party in Parliament.
Okay. For those of you who are watching us on JoyNews, of course, the news is already out there. There's a change in the minority leadership of the NDC. You're listening to Honorable Yusuf Hussaini, worked closely with Haruna Idrisu. He's a former member of parliament. Honorable, we'll get back to you shortly. Just hold on for us. Sami Oping was on earlier with his perspective on the matter. I want to bring in now also Dr. Asante, who's a political scientist at the University of Ghana. Doc, you've been following the conversation. The former MP, Yusuf Hussaini, believes that, well, there's no clear rule in what the law or the standing orders of parliament is saying about the leadership. So we just have to abide with this. And what the NDC has done now is to bring a set of strategic leaders that will work towards victory 2024 of the NDC. What's your perspective on this?
Let me say good afternoon to Mr. Obinga and my good friend, Honorable Yusuf Hussaini. Honorable, I salute you.
Thank you, thank you, Doc.
Right. If you look at party politics, for me, there's no news. Simple because for each political party, the main aim is to win power and form the next government. So they have to position the party in such a way that it is easy for them to achieve this aim. So if by the thinking of the leaders of the party, they believe that this is a way to go, who can fault them? It is to reposition the party, make sure that you tighten all the noose around the party and ensure that the party goes for the kill.
Okay, listen to the justification by the chairperson of the NDC. He says, well, the times in which we are, economic matters will feature a lot more on the floor of parliament, so we need someone to put our best foot forward. Next is that there's a need for regional balance and also the need to bring in some excluded areas such as the Western region and the Volta region. Are these feasible reasons for which, well, you should be experimenting now with new leaders when you're just closer to a general elections?
They are not experimenting. They are not. There are things that the party, decision that they take, you and I who are not close to the party, you may, wish them away. But for them, it's critical. Take, for instance, the issue they're talking about, the economy. You can never win an election without looking at the economy. And the parliament is a hotspot for such discussions. So you know that you need somebody who has what it takes to be able to understand economic analysis, economic issues critically, and be able to share the information among his colleagues in parliament, and of course, by extension, give it to the society and all that. So it is one of the best considerations that you take when you are looking at what voter choices and all that. It is important. So you can't wish the economic factor away. The regional balance is also critical, that you want the leadership to have a certain, representation that reflect a national character. Because take it or leave it, elections are driven by numbers. And people look at even your composition of your leadership in parliament and decide to give you a vote or to vote against you. Remember that one vote can move a candidate to become what? A president, can become what? An MP and all that. So numbers count a lot. But if you look at this, apart from this, I have also some perspectives that I want to bring to bear on the issue. Right. One of it is that the party, as I see it, and from where I stand, or from where I sit, I look at it from this perspective that the party want to make sure that those who are in leadership position are people that they believe that they can deliver the good for them. Why am I saying that? Last election, they accused some leaders for having compromised themselves, and that is not to say that any of said leaders have compromised themselves. Right. But if you look at the performance of the party, as being the leadership in parliament for at least this time, they've done well. Look at Senza bill that they moved. They did their best, except that they did not get the numbers. It's a plus for them. If you look at the fact that they were able to galvanize support from even within MPP and get a speaker elected from their party to lead them in parliament, that's also a plus. If you look at the fact that even E-Levy, the first time when it came, they resisted and all that, they've done their bit. And of course, in recent time as, you know, the kick against the budget and the rest of them. That's a feather in their cap. But you can also, you know, disagree with them with the way and manner that they handled the vote of censure. People were blaming it on the fact that the number was even number and that nothing meaningful will come out of it. But that I disagree and disagree vehemently, in the sense that if you look at the way we began the Fourth Republic, we began with a membership of 230, even number, and we move on to, you know, no, we started with 200 and move on to 230. It is the quality of the membership that counts. So in spite of that even number, one would have expected that they would have done something, you know, that we really appreciate. But events took a different turn, and we had a report that doesn't give us, you know, the all the features that we want and all that. So it creates a problem. If you look at the fact that the leadership some of them came out, that they will resist the budget, especially the VAT, that they will not, you know, allow that. But on the day of voting, somebody got missing and all that. Then one would have, you know, expected the leadership to have whipped them to line. What happened? So some of these things, I'm sure the party may not take it kindly and may come out.
Right, and I'm grateful that you're raising that point about compromise. Let's hear from Alhaji Yunus Hussaini. This continuous perception that Muntaka and Haruna Idrisu appear to be compromised. I mean, you're closer to the MPs. What's the backstory to this?
Well, there's no backstory. It's just a perception that and that perception is when their actions fail to meet the expectation of the generality of the people of Ghana, and at times even their own members or colleagues in parliament. Now, once upon a time, when we were to vote, when Parliament was to vote on whether or not the Deputy Speaker can vote, there was a walkout. Some of their colleagues did not support the walkout. Who engineered the walkout? What was it intended to achieve? Some of the colleagues in Parliament did not know what that walkout was intended to achieve. It is that fuels the perception of a compromise. I have no evidence whatsoever of leadership of the minority during my time in Parliament compromising themselves. But such inconsistent actions lend credence to the fact that the leadership sometimes do not conduct themselves to the expectation of their colleagues.
And is it your belief, sorry to cut through, but is it your belief that Haruna Idrisu was not able to successfully demonstrate to his colleagues that, well, I'm not compromised, neither is
I don't want to narrow this discussion to Haruna Idrisu.
Right.
I have worked with Haruna Idrisu very closely, even before he got to Parliament. I know him so well. Indeed, he's my brother. So I don't want to narrow the discussion to Haruna Idrisu.
But do you feel that these two individuals were not able to demonstrate that commitment, solidarity with their colleagues, a reason for which all of these rumors and perceptions started within rank and file of the NDC?
Well, it is not to demonstrate commitment to their colleagues. Members of Parliament, when they get elected into Parliament, do not work to meet the approval of their colleagues in Parliament. They work to meet the approval of their constituents who have sent them to Parliament and the party on whose ticket they stood to get to Parliament. So the assessment regime is larger than you think. Constituents are assessing the performance of the individual MPs and the group in Parliament to determine whether indeed the way they are performing their duties is acceptable. And the party itself, once a while, goes to or sends directives to the group in parliament on how, in his view, it must discharge its duties. And so for members of parliament to say that, well, or for me to say that a member of parliament work to meet my aspirations and expectations is neither here nor there, because I'm not the final determinant of whether meeting my aspirations will let that member of parliament, if he is in the leadership position, to continue to be in that position.
Okay, so let's look at the way forward then. What's your expectation from the leadership of the NDC, I mean, by extension, the executives, and also these new leaders? What would you want to see in terms of closing the ranks, trying to solve the potential faults and cracks that may emerge after this appointment?
The first thing that happens after a party determining the leadership of the party in parliament is for the party to arrange to meet the caucus in parliament. That's the first thing that will happen. So you can be sure between now and 7th February, when the party will be meeting or parliament will be reconvening, the party will have worked to meet the caucus and explain to them why they think there is a need to change leadership in parliament. The leaders themselves are too forcing, will have a responsibility, indeed a duty, to ensure that he wins the trust and confidence of his colleagues in parliament, because they are to support him in the performance of his duties as a minority leader. Emmanuel Kofi Amapua will have to support, assure parliament, the minority caucus in parliament, and Atu Forsen that he will support him to the hilt, because he is his deputy. As for Abuja, the minority chief whip is a fulcrum around which parliamentary business is done. So he has enormous powers. He has carrots as well as sticks. He determines where or which member travels to where. He determines which member can absent himself from parliament with permission of the speaker. He determines how members of parliament must vote in the interest of the party. So he has a 3-line whip that he can invoke to ensure. And he has sticks. If a member of parliament is recalcitrant enough to disobey the whip, there will be sanctions. You remember what happened in Boris Johnson's government and the European Union and Britain, I mean, when they were looking for Brexit, that some of the Conservative Party members voted against Boris Johnson. They lost their seats. That was a sanction. They were whipped to vote for Brexit, and they voted against it. They lost their seats. Some lost their ministerial positions. That is the power of the whip, both in the presidential system and the parliamentary system. So I'm sure they are going to, I mean, they are colleagues. First of all, Atu Forsen, Bua, Adaklo, that is Adaklo MP.
Governs Abuja.
Have been elected leaders precisely because they are MPs. That's the first qualification. You must be an MP before you be a minority leader. So they are just like their colleagues. They have been in parliament for some time now. They have distinguished themselves. Abuja was the ranking member on roads and transport. In fact, he was a deputy chairman when NDC was in power of Roads and Transport Committee. Bua was in the 7th Parliament the chairman of the Committee on Trade and Industries. And he discharged his duties wonderfully
I get the point. So they are all MPs. But then, just to pick up on Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, I was asking that same question as Asiedu Nketia about how he sacrificed, and of course he received a lot of commendations from rank and file of the NDC when he secured the speakership for the NDC. You feel that he deserves a reward, isn't it? At least by retaining him, just retaining him where he is.
Is he being punished? Is he being punished?
I guess he's being demoted.
I don't think that Muntaka is being punished. And in this particular case, no one is being punished. The party is just strategically repositioning itself. And that is not punishment. It's in the collective interest of Muntaka and all the outgoing leaders that NDC wins election 2020.
Okay. Right.
That's why I'm saying that they have to subsume their interests under the collective interest of the party. It's definitely in their interest that NDC wins power. And so no one is being punished.
All right.
It's strategic realignment of the leadership of the party to the vision of the party, mission of the party for election 2024.
Asiedu Nketia, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us here on The Pulse. I'll give a few minutes each to, of course, Sami Obeng and Dr. Asa Asante. Sami, let me start off with you. Haruna Idrisu or Kesalato Forsen? What would you choose?
Well, I'm not too sure that...
Yes, Sami.
Blessed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that it's really about who do I choose. Unlike Honorable Yunusa Hussaini, I'm not a member of the NDC party. Like you rightly indicated, the party understands their players on the field better and knows who to position where. Let me rather state that whereas I agree with Honorable Yunusa Hussaini when he indicated that nowhere in the standing orders does it preclude, the political party necessarily from being the ones putting forward the details of their leadership in Parliament. I completely agree with him on that particular score, and I don't think that from the very beginning I tried to insinuate that the party has no role to play in selecting the leadership in Parliament. In fact, he was right when he quoted the definition of a minority leader in the standing orders, which says that the minority leader means the member of Parliament designated by the party having the largest numerical strength in Parliament, other than the party that has formed the government, and that person is recognized as a minority there. So certainly the party has a role. The point I was making, however, was that for a party that has huge loads, or for a parliamentary group or caucus that has huge load and expectations of the Ghanaian people on its shoulders, it is expected.
Sami, can you hear me?
So that their front will not be broken in Parliament, failing or making them fail to execute their roles and responsibility in Parliament. But hey, it's about a political party that understands its members better. It's about a political party that knows its people in Parliament better. And it's about how they want to position their people. What this all means also is that there's going to be huge changes to the chairperson, ranking members of committees, in Parliament. The party chairman alluded to that when he signaled in your interview with him that it's likely that even Finance Committee will be led by the Honorable Adongo, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, the leadership that is put in various committees would also be as important, in this entire process. So for us, as a parliamentary monitoring organization, we are hoping and waiting to see who gets to be ranking and deputy ranking on the various committees, how that plays in, but more importantly, to stress and emphasize that when party has a position on a particular subject matter, consensus building, in my opinion, is extremely important to be able to keep the units together in a very important critical parliament such as this 8th Parliament.
All right then. Sami Obeng, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. I'm grateful. Dr. Asa Asante, you have some final words on this?
Yes, I believe that this move will be nurtured and will blossom to give the kind of fruits that the party requires, so that at the end of the day, they will be able to be battle ready for 2024. That requires that the leadership should show some kind of, they should demonstrate that they have what it takes to lead a party by rallying support behind them, by making sure that all differences are mended, and then they make sure that the party's interest is supreme than any other interest. Any other interest will push to the background, and that they are ready to bury their differences, work together as a team, and then take it from where these people are living off. And that is the spirit. I expect that. Nothing more, nothing less.
And I'm grateful, Dr. Asante, political scientist at the University of Ghana. Thank you for joining us. You're watching The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about the new arrangements for the public sector. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has some announcements for you. You might want to listen in on that. It's all coming up here on The Pulse. We're back shortly. Please stay. So while the British High Commissioner to Ghana, Harriet Thompson, is calling for strong partnerships to improve education across the country, the government of the United Kingdom has been one of Ghana's major partners in the area of education, awarding thousands of scholarships and funding of various programs to improve literacy and learning outcomes. In a message to mark International Day of Education, Ms. Thompson said the UK is working with its partners to deliver transformative education reforms.
Harriet Thompson, British High Commissioner to Ghana. In my job as High Commissioner, words matter. A newspaper article can change a whole country's opinion. A letter between nations can build a partnership that lasts for generations. And a speech can deliver hope where there might have been dark. Sharing facts, opinions, stories and beliefs through words is part of how we create our cultures. It's part of what makes us human. Yet UNESCO estimate that 6 out of 10 children can't read, that 244 million children and young people are out of school. As we mark World Education Day around the world, let's remember that education, that sustained and easy access to education, is so much more than certificates, school uniforms or classrooms. It's how we build nations, it's how we progress, and it's how we change the world. Here in Ghana, we're working with partners from the government, civil society organisations and our development partners to deliver transformative education reforms focused on learning and to reach more than 200,000 out-of-school children, supporting them to transition into school, to learn, to thrive and to transform our world.
Well, so you're welcome back to The Pulse. And of course, it's time now to talk about an exciting event that's about to take place. I'm talking about the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Challenge Prize, GSTEP. Well, they are organizing an exhibition and an award ceremony as well. All of that is happening here in Accra. You would want to hear about it. So let's speak to Tonyin Dina, who is the project manager at GSTEP, and also Isaac Efree, project consultant at GSTEP. It's good to see you, ladies and gentlemen, here in our studio. I like the red, first of all.
Thank you very much.
It shows how ready you are for the ceremony. But for those who may not know about GSTEP, just give us a little education on that.
Cool. Would you like to take that, Isaac?
Yeah.
Okay. So GSTEP basically is an acronym for Ghana Science and Technology Engineering Prize. So it is a challenge for junior high school students across the country. We started it in 2001, but that was more or less the year zero because we used that phase to do a bit of research to understand the landscape and to also get contribution from stakeholders to see how we could shape up and design the project. And so last year, which is 2022, which we are climaxing tomorrow actually, was sort of the pilot phase based on the contribution from stakeholders in the education sector. So we use it to then pilot our understanding. So basically this is what it is, and it is supposed to actually challenge the young ones to actually come up with solutions to the problems in their communities.
And I see that a lot of activities will be taking place tomorrow. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So we have 12 categories for our awards, and we're really excited about them. The top 3 for our best participants, finalists, but we've got some wonderful awards for our mentors, for our teachers. We've got our exhibition stand, as we've said, so we're going to have a people's choice, so people have got a chance to go around the exhibitions and look and see what our young people have done and give them a chance to contribute and say who they feel is the best.
When we talk about science and technology, the feeling is, well, it's not for the developing world because elsewhere they have what it takes to run science and technology. How is G-STEP impacting the system here in Ghana?
What we've tried to do is impact from the bottom up and the top down. So we're working with the Ghana Education Ministry, we're working with our partners, there's us here from MEST, Meltwater Entrepreneurship School of Technology. We've got DEXT, who are a training organisation based in Kumasi, who deal with science and technology prototyping in schools already. We're working with Dream Oval, who deal with education and training our young people. We're trying to make sure that everyone's talking to each other, everyone's communicating with each other. And as Isaac said, this was the pilot first 2 years. We're now going into the 3rd year, where we're really hoping we've got a lot of traction with the work we've done already on the ground.
The exhibition, Isaac, is it open to the general public?
Absolutely, it's open to the general public, so we are inviting them to come and watch what the young ones are doing, what some of us did not have the advantage or the
opportunity to do.
To actually do. I mean, sometimes I marvel when I see the output or the product of these young ones, and for me, it's exciting because, and you asked the question if I should, because for me, it's very dear to my heart. Yes, for developing countries, the truth is that we even need science and technology more. Why? Because you realize that any other thing is very subjective, right? So you can put money in any other area and you are not 100% sure of the outcome. But science and technology is always objective. So you know what you are getting. So for developing countries, we need to actually prioritize that. And that is also a way to help us level the development gap. So for me, science and technology is very, very important in our sphere.
And on the lineup, I see that the Education Minister, Dr. Educhum, is expected to be there.
Yeah. He has always been with us since the beginning, and that's something we are proud about. And he's also been very, very passionate along the way. He's been very supportive and very helpful. And so seeing an important step like this, I know, I mean, he decided not to miss it for anything, despite his heavy schedule. So he is going to be present.
Tony, are there plans to expand G-STEP? Do you have plans of expansion?
Thank you so much for that question, because as we said, this is a pilot. We really want to expand. So we started with a small amount of schools, around 10, 15, and then this year we did 25 in Kumasi and 25 in Accra. We want to go to the 16 regions of Ghana. But we're going to start with 100 for next year, which is the 3rd stage of our pilot time, and then see what that develops. Because we, as I said, we want to, bring the schools together. What's been really interesting is seeing how the teachers are also getting part of this. They're science teachers, and they've been given some of the tools that they need to help their students. And it's been amazing to see the relationship between student and teacher now, which is...
I see that you're excited about that.
I am.
But practically speaking, we can't have everyone there. So I'm sure you're deploying some technology, right? Just to get more and more people to have a sense of what's happening there.
What we want is for people to, if you can't come to the award ceremony tomorrow, we've got it on live stream on our Facebook page. What we want people to do is be more aware of us, and we want schools to be more aware. And if you can't take part in this year, then start something, anything. Start a science quiz or science prize in your own school, and then come to us when you're ready. We have a very open criteria as to what we need, and it's a school with at least one girl in the group, and it could be anyone from 4 to 6 in a group, and it's our JHS, so junior high school, 11 to 16-year-olds. So any school who has that criteria can apply, and there is some set criteria, but we're really interested in the solutions to the problems that are in your everyday life. It's not just about what you think is an airy-fairy subject. Science, as Isaac said, is very practical. So use science to show practically. And what our young people have said is, I didn't know it could do that. Oh, that's really great, that's science. And giving them an interest and a love of science.
I'm interested in the application process. Let's get to it. How can schools reach out to G-STEP?
Oh, okay. So the application is always on our socials, and you go to the GSTEP website, gstep.org.gh. You'll see the process. So when we climax this year's or last year's event tomorrow, the moment we finish, application will kick in. So you are free to apply, look at the problem in your society, and then send an application. You can always reach out to us, you know, because we are dealing with young people. So we have a different approach, right? We are very, very innovative, very responsive, and we don't go through the normally structured approach because we want them to be creative and innovative, and we want them not to be boxed. So we are very...
Do you set the targets for them, or it's open? You can come up with...
It's open because we don't know the problems in everybody's society, because we are looking at problems in your society, not problem in my society. So it must be relevant wherever you are. And so it is very open. There were ideas we never thought of, but when they came on board, we accepted them and then made sure we got the necessary resources to enable them to actually prototype. So that is how we are. We don't say we've not budgeted for this or we've not programmed for this, and so we are not taking it. No, because we want them to be innovative. So if you look at the prizes, we have different prizes for innovative idea, for science application, like different prizes, and that is how, you know, open we are. Yes.
So, you know, if there's a parent watching us now, just send that message across as to why they need to encourage their children to, of course, adapt to what's happening now, science and technology.
Thank you. Wonderful question. A parent out there wants their young person to be able to be having a livelihood once they finish school, their education. So the jobs of the future involve science and technology. So if you don't have those skills, you're not going to have a place. So for us, this is giving you a love for science and technology as you're developing at such an early age. And then you start to see the different types of roles that you can have as you get older, but at least you've had a good foundation. And problem solving is something that we really want to encourage. And this is what this prize really does. It really encourages teamwork, problem solving, and solving it in your area. So you find a solution for your area. How amazing is that? And then you take that further and further. So please encourage your children to keep abreast of the out-of-school activities. We ask a lot, but we've got mentors, we've got coaches, we've got trainers to help them along their way, and this will be invaluable for their learning.
And we're grateful to Toyin and Isaac for joining us here. You need to, of course, be a part of that GSTEP exhibition and award ceremony. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be back shortly.